Solution, your number one news source for everything in regards to The Boring Company. I'm unfortunately a little bit late on this one today, but we've got some big news. The Boring Company is founding another company, a separate entity in China. What is that entity going to be doing? It is very unclear. It's all speculation at the moment. I'm going to show you how this information came to pass and what it potentially could mean for the Boring Company. But before I start looking at all these news articles, let's see who's in the chat today. Mikey, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. Now, what I'm going to do this week is when I put something on the screen, I'm going to remove it because the last presentation we had, we had someone's face on the entire presentation. So it's nice to see you, mate. Boring Calgary. Hello again, mate. Thank you for joining us. Our regular in our Discord page. Bubble Elvis. Hello, my mate. How are you? Well, you scared me there. How did I scare you? What did I do? Was I shouting? Right. Let's get down to business, guys. So, unfortunately, I've been very busy at work over the last 2.5 days, and I kind of sort of missed out on this news. I've jumped on Discord and then suddenly it's kind of hit me in the face and I'm like, wow, this is a big thing. This really is a huge announcement. The Boring Company is going to have a separate entity or subsidiary in China. Now, I've selected a few articles that we're going to have a quick look at, but really, this is just pure speculation by people that don't really understand construction at all. These are more technology websites. So the Boring Company's tunnel projects in the USA haven't had the warmest reception in the USA, but they might not matter as much in the near future. Elon Musk has revealed that he'll be launching the company in China while visiting Shanghai for the World Artificial Intelligence Conference between August the 29th and August the 31st. There are still many unknowns. In fact, everything is unknown other than the fact that they are launching a company in China. I mean, it has been said before that they will do one of the original presentations for the Boring Company. Someone asked the question, will you be doing underwater tunnels? And he said, yeah, it's feasible, we can do it. So that's not, something that we don't already know. Got this article from TechCrunch. Elon Musk says the Boring Company will launch in China this month. Wants to drill holes in China. Tesla founder has tweeted to reveal that his tunneling and transportation startup, the Boring Company, will be launched in China later this month. Musk is due to speak at an AI conference called World Artificial Intelligence Conference. I presume he'll be talking about Neuralink, which I don't know if you guys have seen that presentation about that company that he's formed. Jesus Christ, that's some insane stuff. Hopefully someone starts a YouTube channel just totally focused on that, but we'll have to see. So it also is landed its first commercial contract, 48.7 million, underground people mover. They're basically all saying the same thing. I think this is possibly one of the better articles. Again, it's just confirming what we already know. For the last 18 months or so, the Boring Company has been working hard to win contracts, to win tenders in the USA. He's been out there talking to various people, Rahm Emanuel in Chicago. We won the project in Las Vegas. There was obviously a lot of work going on behind the scenes to get the Boring Company in with an opportunity to win that contract, and then obviously to win it as well. The Washington to Baltimore not Hyperloop, but the tunnel project, sorry. But nothing's really started, and the problem is that in places like Europe and the USA, it's very difficult to build big infrastructure projects because you have to acquire the land. And even if you are going 200 meters below someone's house, you still have to get their permission to do that, even though it's going to have not even 1% impact on their lives. It won't impact them in a negative way. It will do nothing to them. They won't even notice it. But because they are above the tunnel, they technically own the land, eminent domain, and that's what's holding things up. The reason I think that the Boeing company is opening up a subsidiary in China is because operating in the USA is too difficult. It's too expensive, and it's very, very slow to get things going. And there's almost this kind of chicken and egg kind of problem. He has to build the system to prove that it works. But he can't build the system because no one believes that he can do it. Even though he's built this test tunnel in Hawthorne, California, people look at this system and they think it's a bit sci-fi, and they think, well, we've been building tunnels for 170 years, and what's the difference? We can't really understand this. They can't really visualize how electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and fast, cheap, affordable tunnels all combine together as one entity and then push this whole idea forward in terms of personalized mass transit. Now, I'm going to keep mentioning that word, personalized mass transit. The important thing is it's not a subway train, it's not a tram, it's not an airplane. You get in a pod and it almost takes you to your door. It picks you up somewhere near where you live, very, very close, maybe even actually at your door, and then it drops you off at work. There's no changing trains or having to walk for 10-15 minutes. The idea of having these small, compact, very fast, nippy pods is that they can get you to very, very close to where you need to be. So you can be dropped off within 200 to 300 meters of your final destination. And I think Elon Musk has been banging his head against the wall to try and get these projects started in the USA. And he's come to the conclusion that doing this is a fruitless endeavor. It's going to take him at least 2, maybe 3.5 years to get the dugout loop built. Now, the dugout loop is one of my favorite projects. I think it's got a good use case, but there's just so many rules and regulations and red tape and planning committees and forms that need to be signed off before that project can even start. The Elon Musk looks at it and he's like, you know what, this is not really worth it. Whereas China, communist China, you can do whatever the hell you want in communist China as long as the Communist Party is in agreement with what you're doing. And they were very, very happy for Tesla to set up their Gigafactory. Very, very happy. Because they need those electric vehicles, because the air quality in China is terrible. But Elon Musk has built on that opportunity, and he's looking at building tunnels in China. Now, I don't think. Now, this is another theory. I could be very, very wrong here. In fact, I could be completely off. I think there's been a change in strategy. And I think they're kind of moving away from these multi-passenger pods, because they have to build these multi-passenger pods. They have to get them signed off as safe to use. They have to build a production line. The easiest way to do this is to build your TBMs, build a couple of tunnels in, say, Shanghai or Beijing or some other huge Shenzhen or some other big city in China, and just operate it as a toll road. Let people with electric vehicles, whether it's Tesla vehicles or maybe some other Chinese manufacturer, let them use those tunnels, maybe cap the speed at 100 miles per hour, and then you charge people. To enter the tunnel, it costs, let's say, $18. And the tunnels can be relatively short, around 7 or 8 miles. That will make a big difference to people's commutes. They're more than happy to pay $18 for that. And you don't need to worry about building loads of pods. You don't need to worry about having some kind of system, some kind of app where people book rides. You don't need to worry about having, you might want to set up almost like bus stops in various locations if you're having multiple people coming on. You don't need to worry about setting up stations. You just have a tunnel, northbound tunnel, a southbound tunnel, and essentially you've got 4 ramps, and then Bob's your uncle. You can do it. You're done. And I think having this more kind of really go back to basics, simple approach, keep the engineering simple, keep the business plan simple, focus on building for as little money as possible. Try and do it for, like 6 to 7 million pounds, or let's say $10 million per mile. That is more than affordable in China. The banks in China are more than happy to lend you money. I mean, they're literally falling over each other, the various banks in China, to give you that money to invest in infrastructure, for them then to maybe own that infrastructure, to then lend money to more people. That's how things work in China. That's why they're building these high-speed railway lines. They're building something insane like 800 miles of high-speed railway line every year in China, and they have been doing that since the millennium, since the year 2000. It's just phenomenal, and that's why he's gone to China, because it's easy. It's so easy. And yes, and yeah, I totally agree. It takes 3 times, 4 times longer just to get planning in the USA or Australia or the UK than it does in China. And then you have access to all those amazing engineers, all those hard-working graduates in China, and they're just there. They're desperate to get jobs. Unemployment for graduates in China has actually been slightly rising, because they're just running out of opportunities for these people to take. So there's plenty of supply, huge numbers of Chinese engineers available, and Elon Musk can take his pick of the best ones and have them work for the Chinese Boeing company. But that's my theory anyway. I think they're going to China, and the 2 main reasons are it's easy to build things, it's easy to get finance, and so let's say 3 things, and the access to skilled engineers, possibly with some tunneling understanding rather than experience. There might be some, in fact, there probably is quite a lot of tunneling experience in China as well. So again, those are the 3 things: easy access to finance, easy access to skilled labour, and it's just easier to build things, less red tape. Boeing company unicorns. David Webb. China does not need Elon to invent the road tunnel or maglev. No, it's not. That's not what we're doing. We're building a TBM that is compact, that is cost effective, and that can bore faster than existing TBMs. No one at the moment is boring hundreds of miles of tunnel underneath China, because they can't do it affordably. What the Boeing company has is the tech and the expertise to do that quickly, affordably, and on a large scale once they get enough TBMs. Well, yeah, if that's what his idea was to troll me, he's failed very miserably there, David Webb, unfortunately. I mean, at the end of the day, David, if you want to doubt the Boeing company, why don't you come back in 2 years' time and come on here? Because I'm still going to be around in 2 years' time and say, look, he's totally failed at everything he's done. But if you look at people like yourself, David, that were calling out Elon Musk in 2010, saying that the Model S was never going to get built, and that the Roadster was a flop, and that Tesla is a failed entity, and it was bailed out by the US government. And look at it now. We're winning. Other than the share price, which is heavily shorted and manipulated by scumbags, Tesla's winning at everything. Quality, in terms of the technical expertise of Tesla, in terms of their service offerings, in terms of the software, in terms of all the new vehicles that are available. They're winning. The Model 3 has been a huge success. You can't argue with that. I'll tell you what though, the Chinese Chinese engineers, and this is based. I've only ever worked with 2 Chinese engineers in, what's it, 12, 13 years. What I come across as the kind of characteristics of Chinese engineers: very competent, very good technical understanding of what they're doing, but not necessarily that great, or fairly average at problem solving. I think that US engineers are probably a bit more imaginative and a bit better at problem solving, but they don't quite have the kind of technical sort of foundations that the Chinese engineers do. So if the Boeing company can bring some of these Chinese engineers back to the USA, maybe for the US projects, once they have proved the technology in China, because if they can build hundreds and hundreds of tunnels in China and prove that these TPMs are, you know, effective at building tunnels quickly, then there you go. So we've got another message from our kid. No, bollocks. David, I've done a video on here, yeah, and we looked at Robbins Co, yeah. Now they are one of the leading experts in tunnel boring, and we looked at one of their projects in Nepal as a case study. Now that project came out at around 21 million. I think it was pounds actually, 21 million UK pounds per mile. Now they were digging in hard rock, in reasonably, say, slightly difficult terrain, and they were incredibly fast, very, very fast. I believe they were averaging, I have to look at the video again, but it was somewhere close to 800 to 1,000 meters per. It might have been 100, let's say 100 to 150 meters per month, maybe more than that. In fact, it might be 1,000 meters per month. I have to go back and have. I think it's close to 1,000. I'm going to say it's 1,000. But what Elon Musk is saying in terms of the price, in terms of what it costs to build the Hawthorne test tunnel, it is absolutely correct. There's no fake news there. That is 100% correct. It's 1,000 meters per month they were averaging. If you can prove otherwise, then, you know, show me the evidence. But I've shown the evidence on this channel by looking at that case study, and it easily comes within what is doable for the Boeing company. It's not a fairy tale. What I need to do as well, while I'm thinking about it, yes, mate. Okay, who wants to become a moderator for my YouTube channel? First person to say yes, who's not Mike, gets to become a moderator. Not Mike, sorry. Mike, you can do it. I mean David, sorry Mike. Yeah, I think he might. I can't remember. I need to look at that again. I thought the tunnel was about 5 miles long, but I'm not. I can't remember off the top of my head. Right. Who wants to become a moderator? Because I can do it now. Because the problem is, if we've got trolls in the group, I can't kick them from Ecamm Live. Yes. Okay, let's fix you up, mate. Anyone else? Anyone else fancy it? Problem is. Okay, if you can see that, you're now a moderator. Okay. So, if someone's talking rubbish in the chat, then that's, it's up to you if you want to kick them. But, I mean, I don't mind having a discussion with people as long as people are not being aggressive and just saying the same thing over and over again. If you want to make an argument that the Boeing company is a unicorn, then that's up to you. But you've got to make a decent argument, for that point. Don't just keep saying the Boeing company is a unicorn because what the fuck's that? It's like kids. A lot of people thought Tesla was a unicorn. A lot of people thought SpaceX is a unicorn. Every company that Elon Musk has formed since the year 2005 has been a magnificent success. I mean, how can anyone argue that Elon Musk hasn't been successful? And the Boeing company is just another part of his success story. The Boeing company is a great idea. What people want in life, is to go to work quickly and then get home quickly, because it's a huge waste of time being sat in traffic. It is literally soul destroying. I used to work somewhere in the centre of Manchester, and I went from being just a skinny bloke to a muscle bound freak, because I didn't want to sit in traffic on the way home. So what I would do is I would go to the gym after work, and then I would stay in the gym for an hour and a half, and I would do that 3-4 days a week. And at the time, my girlfriend was like, well, why are you doing this? And I was like, I just can't sit in traffic. It's just a waste of my time. I was just going to the gym, 5-6 hours every single week, which was great. But I was just I was losing time with my friends and family because I couldn't sit in traffic. And that's what people want. China is terrible for congestion. LA is terrible for congestion. Why can we not just build these tunnels and find out if they work? Because people are willing to pay for time. I'm happy to pay, £10 every day if that saves me half an hour in traffic. Because no one wants to sit in traffic. No one. Find me someone who wants to sit in traffic. It's probably people that are chauffeur driven and they sat in the back, playing on the phone or listening to music. Yeah. So what I will say to that, John, is I think all methods of transport have a role to play in the future in terms of reducing congestion and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In the UK, we have a phenomenal rail network. We have possibly the best rail network. It saves so much time. Our bus network isn't so great, but it still gets a lot of usage. If we could improve the bus network, improve trams, improve trains, and have a Boring Coal loop in every single city and town in the UK, we could eliminate congestion to almost zero. It's never going to go to absolute zero. There's going to be times, after a football game, maybe a rugby game, or maybe, during the shopping period over Christmas, that we might get small areas of congestion, but I don't think in the long term it's going to be an issue if we invest in all forms of transport. And the Hyperloop as well. The Hyperloop plays a role in terms of linking up airports and different countries. No, we don't. I love subways. I think that we should invest more money in subways. And in Manchester, we have the Metrolink. We should invest, another £3 billion in the Metrolink and expand it to all the areas surrounding it. It's important to have lots of options. What I don't like about buses is that they're mainly diesel powered, and that in a lot of the UK they share the roads. Now there are some bus lanes, but they share the roads with cars, so you're still stuck in traffic, and you're stuck on a bus that's kicking out lots of emissions. And for me, That's not the future. Yeah. I mean, I'm just what I will say, John, is I'm a fan of all infrastructure projects if it makes a difference to people's lives in a positive way, and it makes reasonable economic sense. So I think high-speed rail in the UK, HS2, definitely makes sense. However, I think the current plans for California high-speed rail don't make sense, and I think that it's a big waste of money, and they'd probably be better using a hyperloop. But it's already started now, so what can we do, eh? Yeah, yeah, I heard that actually about where was I reading that? One of the news articles for electric. I think Robert Llewellyn posted it on his Twitter, and I heard that the Dutch government is almost forcing the bus contractors to buy electric buses now, or at least buy hybrid variants, which is great. I don't like buses because they rattle around and they make a lot of noise. Whereas if you're on a nice, quiet electric bus with lots of room, then I might start using buses again. The last time I used a bus, I was like 19 years old, so it's been quite a while. Elon will be in India next year. He might drill tunnel underneath Mount Everest from China to India. Anti-nuclear war gesture. I mean, that would be incredibly complex to go underneath the Himalayas. But yeah, I like the idea. India is terrible. It's so difficult to build in India. I'll be honest with you. It's just like a bureaucratic mess, India. So much red tape. It's so difficult to bring things into India as well. Apple struggled to break into India for 40 years nearly. It's not a great place to do business. It's not very business friendly. It's quite a socialist country, if I'm going to be really honest. Some states are better than others. So I mean, setting up a Boeing company in India is just a non-starter, unfortunately. I mean, I really would love it to be like that. God, yeah. God, yeah. It was such a disgrace, that, wasn't it, with Volkswagen and the Dieselgate scandal. I mean, I'm very worried because I spent a lot of time, over the last 10 years sat behind Volkswagens on motorways in traffic, ironically. So you just wonder, what is that going to cause to your health in the long term? Have I got away with it? You just don't know. Yeah, I find that interesting. I think this might be wrong here. Is it Pradesh, the state in India? There are a couple of states in India which are very pro-business, and that's where they're building all the toll motorways and investing in the railways. So if it's going through that state, then it might be a lot easier. But there's places in India where even just trying to set up a business, like selling newspapers, requires 50 documents and about 2 years worth of waiting. That's how bad the bureaucracy is. Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, guys, the Boeing company is setting up in China because it's going to be a lot easier to do business. They're going to have access to a lot of skilled engineers. They're going to have places where they can build the TBMs, and they're probably going to keep all the design and engineering work, or at least half of it, in Los Angeles, so they can do all the work from there, and then they can build it all in China. I'd imagine getting access to finance in China for a tunnel project like a toll road or something very simple like that would literally, be a week's worth of work. And you might think to yourself, a week? That sounds insane, Will, but in China, they do things fucking quickly. They don't mess around. Everything gets done very quickly this in regards to infrastructure. Just look at the high-speed rail network. Just look at the Beijing subway. I mean, the Beijing subway was just non-existent like 23 years ago. And they've just absolutely just pummeled it full of money. And now it's the biggest in the world, and it's going to get even bigger, like considerably bigger. Cool, man. Right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to make tracks now. If I made you a moderator, please use that power wisely. Please, give people an opportunity to talk. If people become aggressive, just kick them out. But obviously, if people are just asking questions that you don't like, but they're being reasonably respectful, let them do that as such. Right, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate that. I'm going to shoot off now. Any questions just before I go? Any questions in regards to anything? Just while I'm thinking. I have this document which was given to me from one of my contributors on Discord, a gentleman called Cunningham. This is a phenomenal document. I only received this about an hour ago, so I'm sorry that I've not been able to look at it. But this is the Las Vegas project. All the project documents, like how they're proposing that they're going to build it. So as you can see, it is fairly detailed, which is excellent. So in a future episode, we're going to look at that. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you'll tune in next time for a bit more of a more structured episode. Today's just been kind of a news episode. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate all your help today, guys. And yeah, don't be boring. See you soon. Goodbye. And thank you to all my Patreons as well. I got my Patreon check. I think it was yesterday, and it's just great. That pays for all the Ecamm Live, which is the software that I use to broadcast this. And the plan is now to set up a Boring Revolution website. That's my next plan. I've saved up a bit of money, and we'll see where that leads to. Thank you so much. See you around, guys. Goodbye. Take care.